This was the United Kingdom in the year 2000, an advanced country and home to some of the world's most renowned brands. Brands like Aston Martin, Unilever, Vodafone, and Barclays are just a few names in the very long list. At that time, the UK was the fourth largest economy in the world. Its GDP stood at a whopping $1.4 trillion. It was even poised to overtake Germany to become the third largest economy by GDP. It seemed like there was no stopping for the British juggernaut. But let's fast forward to the United Kingdom of 2023. There is rising homelessness, inflation is touching the sky, millions of people without any jobs, and even more people relying on government's welfare schemes just to make their ends meet. Things are not looking good for the UK. In fact, things are pretty scary. To start with, UK's national debt stands at a jaw-dropping £2 trillion. To put that into perspective, that's 99% of the entire UK's GDP. Its manufacturing sector has shrunk by 20% since 2008, and its GDP has grown at a mere 3.8% annual rate for 23 years now. The situation is so dire that it seems like Britain's economy is broken forever. Let's dive deep and understand why the UK might be at the cusp of the biggest economic meltdown of its history. Reason 1. Debt-Ridden Austerity. It all began with the 2008 financial crisis. That's when the house of cards began to fall. Prior to the crisis, the UK had accumulated a substantial amount of public debt. The debt remained largely manageable because the economy was growing at a good pace to repay it. But as 2008 hit, UK experienced a significant economic downturn, leading to rising unemployment and falling tax revenues. Because of this, the UK had to face massive budget deficits for the next many years. Let's take 2009 for instance. Things were so devastating that UK's deficit had skyrocketed to 11.2% of its GDP, which was the highest level since World War II. To reduce these humongous debt levels, the British government implemented a series of austerity measures. These measures included cuts to public spending, tax increases, and a freeze on public sector pay. But rather than helping the UK economy stabilize, austerity led to massive demand reduction in the economy. This was because neither the consumers nor the businesses had any money left to spend. Austerity also made it more expensive for the UK government to borrow any further money and invest in its economy. We need to keep in mind that UK's post-2008 budget deficits were so large that it would have taken at least 2 decades for austerity to reduce the deficits to a substantial level. But before it would have done so, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And in the midway, the UK government had to go and borrow even more money at an even higher cost just to support the economy and its welfare schemes. The situation is so worse that the UK's budget deficit again shot up to a jaw-dropping 15% for 2021. This deficit has since then trickled down to 5.4% for 2023, but it is still invariably high. Reason 2. Deindustrialization and low productivity. There was a time when UK used to be a major manufacturing sector. Millions of people worked in factories, producing high-quality, internationally recognized goods such as cars, steel, and textiles. However, in recent decades, many of these industries have either closed or shifted to other countries. UK's manufacturing sector has shrunk by a massive 20% since 2008, which, by the way, is more than any other G7 country. This rapid deindustrialization has led to a loss of at least 3 million manufacturing jobs in the UK since 1997. This in turn has led to a decline in consumption of goods, which has further reduced demand in UK's economy. As the entire tax base has reduced because of job losses, this has also led to lower tax collections for the UK government. Lower tax collection means that the government will have lesser money to invest in its economy. On top of all that, whatever industries do remain in the UK, they are facing massive productivity problems. UK's productivity is 17% lower than the G7 average. This means that UK workers comparatively produce less output per hour. This makes it more difficult for UK businesses to compete with businesses from other countries. And as a result, UK businesses have been continuously losing market share to their foreign competitors. This has led to a decline in exports and a rise in imports, further fueling trade deficits and currency devaluation. A weaker British pound then translates to even more expensive imports and cheaper exports, further discouraging businesses to stay in the UK. The UK is now in a chicken and an egg situation which it might never get out of. Reason 3. Brexit. There is no better way to put it. Britain's economy was way better off when it was part of the European Union. Why are we saying this? Let's check some facts. In the 5 years before the Brexit referendum in 2016, UK's GDP growth rate averaged 2.1%. But in the 5 years since the referendum, it has fallen to a minuscule 0.6%. Brexit also created a lot of uncertainty and instability for businesses. This led to businesses either delaying or completely revoking further investment into UK. In 2019, just 1 year before Brexit, investment in the UK was worth £209 billion. But in 2021, just 1 year after Brexit, this had fallen to £176 billion. Brexit also made it more expensive for UK businesses to trade with the rest of Europe. And because of this, UK's trade with the EU has been falling ever since Brexit. In 2018, the UK-EU trade was worth £668 billion. But in 2022, it had fallen to £544 billion. Brexit has also led to a massive loss of jobs in the UK. Even before Brexit was made official, to avoid any potential hike up in costs or tariffs, many businesses either completely or partially moved out of the UK. It is important to note that right after Brexit, COVID-19 pandemic hit, and therefore the complete effect of Brexit is yet to be analysed. But it is clear that Brexit has had a devastating impact on the UK economy. Reason 4. Cost of living crisis. This reason is actually the after effect of all the factors that we have discussed so far. High level of public debt, low level of public investment, Brexit, COVID-19, austerity, falling exports, rising imports, high costs of doing business, deindustrialization and job cuts. All these factors combined with the Russia-Ukraine war led to a massive spike in cost of living for the Britishers. First up are the rising energy bills. The average household energy bill in the UK is expected to reach £2,600 per year in 2023. This represents a massive 54% increase in energy bills since April of 2022. Next in line are the rising food prices. Food inflation in the UK has reached a record level of 9.8% in August of 2023. This is the highest level of food inflation in over 40 years. Then there is the rising housing cost. The average house price in the UK is now £420,000. This represents a 9% increase in house prices since last year. It was once said that the sun can never set in the British Empire. However, nothing can be as untrue as this saying. It is now as clear as the Thames River. UK is facing the toughest challenge in its history. Whether or when the UK can overcome this, only time can tell. Thank you for joining us on this eye-opening journey. For more riveting insights on global dynamics, don't miss out our other compelling videos. Click the links on your screen and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.